Okay, Bob, I'll do it your way. Four simple words that carry the weight of a decade-long musical journey. Four words that represent one of the most unlikely partnerships in rock history. And four words that became John Mayer's farewell to his Dead and Company bandmate Bob Weir. On Sunday, January 12th, 2026, John Mayer broke his silence following the death of Bob Weir at age 78. The guitar legend and Grateful Dead co-founder had passed away peacefully, surrounded by loved ones after courageously beating cancer, but succumbing to underlying lung issues. But this isn't just another celebrity tribute story. This is about how a pop star guitarist became the torchbearer for one of America's most beloved musical legacies. It's about an unlikely friendship that bridged generations. And it's about what happens when someone says yes to an opportunity that seems impossible. Today, we're diving deep into the relationship between John Mayer and Bob Weir, the controversies they faced, and how their collaboration changed both of their lives forever. Background: the unlikely pairing, 1:30, Gra. Let's set the scene. It's February 2015. John Mayer is guest hosting The Late Late Show. At this point, Mayer is known for hits like Your Body is a Wonderland and Waiting on the World to Change. He's a Grammy-winning artist, a guitar virtuoso, but he's definitely not associated with the jam band scene. Mayer invited Bob Weir to join him for a studio performance that night. What happened next was chemistry that nobody could have predicted. Think about how different these two musicians were. Bob Weir was a founding member of the Grateful Dead, a cornerstone of the San Francisco psychedelic band for more than half a century. He'd spent 30 years touring with Jerry Garcia until Garcia's death in 1995. Weir helped build and sustain the band's legacy across generations. John Mayer, on the other hand, was the clean-cut pop star who dominated radio in the 2000s. To many Deadheads, the devoted fans of the Grateful Dead, Mayer represented everything their counterculture movement stood against: commercial success, mainstream appeal, polished production. But there was something else. Mayer was a genuine guitar prodigy. He wasn't just a pop star playing three chords. He understood blues, he understood improvisation, and most importantly, he understood the Grateful Dead's music on a deep level. A collaboration evolved from that Late Late Show performance. By the end of 2015, Dead and Company was born, featuring Weir, drummers Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann from the original Grateful Dead, and John Mayer stepping into the enormous shoes left by Jerry Garcia. The controversy? 4 sours, 7 sequars. Bringing John Mayer into the Grateful Dead fold to form Dead and Company was certainly controversial. And that's putting it mildly. The internet exploded. Deadheads were furious. How dare this pop star think he could replace Jerry Garcia? Who did John Mayer think he was, stepping into the sacred space of the Grateful Dead? The criticism came from all angles. Some said Mayer was too young, too commercial, too different. Others questioned his understanding of the Dead's improvisational ethos. Still others felt that having anyone try to continue the Grateful Dead's music after Garcia's death was sacrilege itself. But here's where the story gets interesting. Bob Weir saw something in Mayer that the critics didn't. After Jerry Garcia's death in August 1995, Weir was a standard bearer in various reunions, including shifting lineups featuring the Dead's core members. He'd played with the other ones, the Dead, Further, Rat Dog, countless iterations trying to keep the music alive. Weir knew what he was looking for. He wasn't looking for someone to be Jerry Garcia. That was impossible. He was looking for someone who could bring new energy while respecting the legacy. And Mayer? He approached it with humility. Mayer stepped into the lead guitarist role, filling the spot once held by Jerry Garcia, but he never tried to copy Garcia note for note. He brought his own voice while honoring the tradition. Bob Weir and John Mayer had an ever-evolving musical partnership, one built on mutual respect and genuine friendship. How they responded: 7 Falk, 9:30. So how did Mayer and Weir handle the criticism? They did what musicians do best. They let the music speak for itself. Dead and Company embarked on numerous tours in the years that followed, and something remarkable happened. The skeptics started to come around. Concert by concert, show by show, Mayer proved he wasn't there to be Jerry Garcia 2.0. He was there to serve the music. The combination proved infectious with older enthusiasts and brought many new fans into the scene. That's the key right there. Dead and Company wasn't just keeping the legacy alive for the old fans, They were introducing an entirely new generation to this music. Young people who'd never heard of the Grateful Dead were now showing up to Dead and Company shows because they were John Mayer fans. And once they experienced that music live, they understood what the fuss was all about. Mayer began playing with Dead and Company in 2015 and has been doing so for over a decade. Over those 10 years, something beautiful evolved. This wasn't just a professional arrangement. Mayer and Weir developed a genuine friendship. In interviews, Mayer said, "If Bobby and Mickey want to do it, I want to do it. I want to follow them where they want to go." That level of deference, that willingness to be a student rather than a star, that's what made it work. The facts and truth. 9:30, 11:30. Let's talk about what actually happened during this partnership. The numbers tell a compelling story. The group wrapped up a farewell tour in July 2023, but they continued to play residencies at Sphere in Las Vegas throughout 2024 and 2025. Think about that. They announced a final tour and then came back because the demand was so strong. The Sphere residencies were groundbreaking. Between May and August of 2024, they played a 30-date residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas, one of the most successful residencies ever played. Dead and Company became one of the highest-grossing touring acts in America. But the most powerful moment came in August 2025. They came together one last time for 3 shows in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park to celebrate the Grateful Dead's 60th anniversary. Those shows drew roughly 180,000 people over 3 nights. Here's what makes that extraordinary. Bob Weir had been diagnosed with cancer in July and began treatment only weeks before returning to his hometown stage for this 3-night celebration. Nobody in the audience knew. Weir was undergoing cancer treatment and still gave everything he had to those performances. Those performances were emotional, soulful, and full of light. Not farewells, but gifts. Those Golden Gate Park shows turned out to be Weir's final performances. He passed away in early January 2026, just months after giving one last gift to the fans who'd followed him for 6 decades. Analysis. What happened and why? 11:30, 13:30. So why did this partnership work when so many people predicted it would fail? There are several key reasons. First, authenticity. Weir once described Mayer's approach, noting that his unique rhythm style was perfectly suited to the band's improvisational approach. Mayer wasn't faking it. He genuinely understood and loved this music. Second, respect for legacy. As the most visible torchbearer following Garcia's death in 1995, Weir became the figure Deadheads turned to for continuity. Mayer understood that. He never tried to overshadow Weir or rewrite the narrative. He was there to support, to enhance, to serve. Third, the multi-generational appeal. The Grateful Dead always had a devoted following, but Dead and Company expanded that circle dramatically. Younger musicians and fans discovered this music through Mayer. Weir brought talented young musicians into the Grateful Dead fold, with frequent collaborations helping to introduce the music to fans of these artists and serving as a spark for younger players to keep the music alive for decades to come. But perhaps most importantly, both men understood something fundamental about music. It's meant to be shared, evolved, and passed on. Bob Weir once said he hoped to see the band outlive him, describing a vision where he looked around and saw new musicians carrying the torch forward. Their actual achievements. 13:30, 15 barriers. The achievements of Dead and Company and the Mayer-Weir partnership are staggering when you look at them objectively. They completed multiple sold-out national tours. They pioneered a groundbreaking residency at the technologically advanced Sphere in Las Vegas. They played to hundreds of thousands of fans, many of whom had never experienced this music live before. But the numbers don't tell the full story. The real achievement was cultural preservation and evolution. They proved that music from the 1960s and 70s could still resonate in the 2020s. They showed that legacy acts don't have to be museum pieces. They can be living, breathing, evolving entities. Weir often spoke of a 300-year legacy, determined to ensure the songbook would endure long after him. Through his partnership with Mayer and others, he ensured exactly that. And for Mayer personally, this was career-defining. He went from being seen primarily as a pop star to being recognized as one of the torchbearers for American roots music. He earned respect from one of the most discerning, protective fan bases in all of music. Bigger lessons and takeaways. 16:30. What can we learn from the John Mayer and Bob Weir story? First, never underestimate the power of saying yes to the unexpected. Mayer could have stayed in his comfort zone, making pop records and playing arenas. Instead, he took a risk that many people told him would end his career. It did the opposite. Second, authenticity always wins. The critics only came around when they saw that Mayer genuinely loved and respected this music. You can't fake that kind of devotion, and audiences can always tell the difference. Third, legacy is about evolution, not preservation. Weir understood that keeping the music alive didn't mean freezing it in amber from 1977. It meant finding new voices, new interpretations, new ways to make those songs resonate with each generation. Fourth, respect your elders and learn from them. Mayer's willingness to be a student, to defer to Weir's vision, to put ego aside, that's what made the partnership work. There's profound wisdom in knowing when to lead and when to follow. And finally, art has the power to bridge any divide. Age, genre, commercial success, critical reception, none of that mattered when Mayer and Weir got on stage together and created something beautiful. Conclusion, 1630, 18. Let's come back to where we started. That tribute John Mayer posted on Instagram. Okay, Bob, I'll do it your way. FKNA, thanks for letting me ride alongside you. It sure was a pleasure. If you say it's not the end, then I'll believe you. I'll meet you in the music. Come find me anytime. I'll meet you in the music. That's the perfect encapsulation of what Weir believed and what Mayer learned from him. The music doesn't die when the musician does. It lives on in every performance, every listener, every new musician who picks up a guitar and learns those songs. Weir's family said in their statement, "There is no final curtain here, not really. Only the sense of someone setting off again." Bob Weir spent 60 years on the road. Weir was diagnosed with cancer in July 2025 and began treatment only weeks before taking the stage for what would be his final shows at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, celebrating 60 years of Grateful Dead music. Even facing his own mortality, he chose to show up, to perform, to give, and John Mayer was there beside him, not as a replacement for Jerry Garcia, not as a pop star slumming in the jam band world, but as a genuine partner, student, and friend. The skeptics were wrong. The critics missed the point. This wasn't about one person trying to be someone else. It was about two musicians from different generations, finding common ground in the universal language of music. That's the real story here. Not just the tribute, not just the partnership, but the profound lesson that music transcends everything. Ego, criticism, generational divides, even death itself. As Mayer said, "I'll meet you in the music." And that's where Bob Weir will always be. In every note, every improvisation, every young musician who discovers that the music never really stops.